It's now time for further debate. I recognize the member for Guelph.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honour to rise to speak the third reading of Bill 97. And I just want to make it clear that I'm here to stand with the farmers, the housing advocates, the professional planners, local councillors, environmental NGOs, and citizens who are speaking out against Bill 97 and the associated postings on the environmental registry that goes with it. This bill and the government's sprawl at all costs agenda is a direct threat to agriculture in this province. Some have described it as a frontal assault on farming in Ontario, and it will actually make the housing affordability crisis worse. Just 2 hours ago in the media studio, the Alliance for a Livable Ontario came to Queen's Park. And it's an alliance of 73 organizations from the agricultural, land use planning, housing, tenant, environment, neighbourhood associations, labour, healthcare, academic and business sectors. And they came to Queen's Park to warn us of the catastrophic consequences of the government's plans to rip up planning laws in this province. But Speaker, don't take my word for it. Take the words of some of the folks who are here. And I'm going to start with Mark Reusser, who's a turkey farmer in Waterloo Region, president of Waterloo Region OFA. And I quote, "If the province proceeds with its proposal to gut Ontario's planning laws, they will deliver a fatal blow to Ontario's agricultural community. They will open prime agricultural land to development and forever remove it from growing the food Ontarians need. This will be the end of agriculture in Ontario." Let me quote another participant, David Crombie, the former mayor of Toronto and the former chair of the Provincial Greenbelt Council. And I quote, "This is completely unnecessary. Report after report shows there is more than enough land already set aside within existing towns and cities to build all the housing we need. There is no reason to build on the Greenbelt and other natural areas. There is no reason to build on prime agricultural lands." End of quote. Let's have another quote from somebody from ALO. Ann Golden, former chair, Task Force on the Future of the GTA. And I quote, "This is absolutely the wrong way to deal with a serious housing shortages that we face. We have a limited number of investment dollars, construction workers and building supplies. The province should be working with developers to make sure they succeed in building the housing we need, where we already live, not on valuable farm land in the Greenbelt." Let's listen to another quote. This one from Alejandra Ruiz Vargas from Toronto Acorn. And I quote, lost my page here. Oh, here we go. "This will not help existing tenants nor get us the desperately needed affordable housing units built where people live." Speaker, if you combine Bill 97, the associated ERO postings, and Bill 23, this government clearly has an agenda to impose an expensive sprawl agenda onto the people of Ontario against their will. The government's own Housing Affordability Task Force has clearly stated that land is not the barrier to building the homes we need in Ontario. Studies by planning experts have showed that we already have enough land approved for development to build 2 million homes, 500,000 more homes than our goal that we all agree on across party lines of building 1.5 million homes over the next decade. And so the fact that the government appears, we don't know for sure, but appears to be backtracking on the issue around farm severances, That is just the tip of the iceberg of what this bill and the associated ER postings will impose on Ontario. And I want to quote from the Alliance for a Livable Ontario's study around Bill 97. Quote, "It forever changes agriculture in the province so that it becomes extremely difficult for farmers to continue to grow the food we all rely on by allowing virtually unrestricted development on prime agricultural lands. Turbocharges expensive and unsustainable sprawl development that would fragment and isolate farms and farm communities and force municipalities to spend more and more tax dollars to build new infrastructure to service geographically dispersed development. Removes policies that require developers to build the diverse housing types Ontarians want and can afford in the neighbourhoods they want to live in. It will worsen the homeless crisis by eliminating policies needed to build truly affordable housing." End quote. Speaker, we have some real decisions to make in Ontario. This is kind of one of those really important moments where we think about what our province is going to look like for generations to come. And the question is, are we going to build homes that people can actually afford, in the connected communities they want to live in, close to their loved ones, in places where they want to live, work, and play? Or are we going to make the housing crisis worse by imposing an expensive 1950s-style sprawl agenda onto the people of Ontario? Here are some of the facts. It costs 2.5 times more for a municipality to service a home built through sprawl than one built within existing urban boundaries. The City of Ottawa did a study that showed for every house built in low-density sprawl, it costs the city $465 a year, every year per taxpayer. But if they build within the city boundaries, actually the city raises an additional $606 per capita each year. That's almost a $1,000 financial benefit to the municipality. It is less expensive for municipalities to service existing communities than to have to pay the exorbitant costs of low-density sprawl. Now, Speaker, it will also hurt the wallets of young people. I've heard the minister, and I agree with the minister on this. We want young people to have homes they can afford. But why are we imposing them, enforcing them to drive until they qualify for a mortgage, and then imposing long, expensive commutes on them that take them away from their family, friends, and volunteer opportunities in their communities, when, if we pass bills like my Bill 44 and 45, which would end exclusionary zoning and create opportunities to build more missing middle housing, we could build homes that people can afford in connected communities they want to live in. Now, I've talked to developers, and they are concerned about the delay in the approvals process to get those homes built. But when I talk to municipal planners, part of what's causing those delays is the fact that the government keeps coming in with so many changes to the planning laws that they're spending more time trying to figure out what the heck is going on than actually planning developments. So why don't we get on with ending exclusionary zoning, ending the red tape, and allowing people to build homes where people actually want to live, where they can afford to live?
It's now time for questions. I recognize the member for Barrie Innisfil.
Thank you, Speaker. And it's interesting to note the member talked about sprawl. But you know what causes sprawl is when municipalities like Guelph don't build at all, and then people do have to drive till they qualify to the next municipality that has to do sprawl because the one adjacent wasn't doing anything. We have that example in my area where we're preventing that from happening, where we have a very well-planned transit-oriented development community. We're embracing density, we're saving farmland, we're allowing people to eat and live in their community. But it's by embracing progressive 21st century planning rules and being nimble, not being stuck in the 1950s as the member opposite quotes. And so will you not join us in allowing for flexible and more progressive planning policies? Because people do need places to eat and to live, but we can't keep having them keep driving until they qualify by NIMBY municipalities. Thank you.
Back to the member for Guelph.
I would ask the member to maybe come to Guelph. You're more than welcome to. Happy to invite you to Guelph, and you'll see the cranes in the sky. You'll see the tall buildings that are being built in downtown Guelph near our transit mode. You'll see the fact that we've had a Yes in My Backyard campaign that had approvals now for 3 permanent supportive housing spaces in neighborhoods where initially there was opposition. But because the 3 levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, came together, and I'll even say, and I'll give the Minister of Housing credit, he actually came to Guelph to announce funding for one of those projects, and I appreciate the Minister for doing that. We are building permanent supportive housing in Guelph. You know, the Premier has said on numerous occasions that Guelph has the lowest housing starts in the province. That is simply not true. A quick Google search will show you that. And I'll actually say to my friends in Peterborough, I've been giving them a rough time, that they're much lower than Guelph. I see my friend over there. You know what? Let's be honest. We do need.
Further questions? I recognize the member for Niagara Falls.
Thank you very much. I didn't get a chance to ask my question to my colleagues, so I'm going to ask it to you, because we were talking about the Premier backing down. But what I wanted to talk about is that, and he talked about the notwithstanding clause, and seeing the Labour Minister is here, he was the first one to stand up and clap in support of the notwithstanding clause, and then he had to, a week later, had to back down on the notwithstanding clause. We know that we're losing 319 acres of farmland every single day, but because we're talking about, it was mentioned in this, about backing down, do you think that the Conservatives should back down on Bill 124, Bill 60, anti-scab legislation, which was raised today, which this minister supports, and Bill 57 deeming on Injured Workers' Day? He should support that. So I'm asking you, do you think they should back down on some of those bills that really affect workers in the province of Ontario?
Back to the member from Guelph.
Well, I appreciate the member's question. I don't think it's necessarily relevant to this bill, but I will say I went out and spoke at the Injured Workers Rally, and absolutely we should end deeming in this province. Absolutely we should have WSIB actually supporting injured workers instead of denying them their benefits. When it comes to farmland protection and backing down on Bill 97, absolutely should be backing down on Bill 97. Oh, and you mentioned 124. Yeah, if we want to hire more healthcare workers and have more frontline healthcare workers, let's get rid of Bill 124 and stop wasting money appealing it. But when it comes to farmland loss, 319 acres a day. To put that into perspective for people, that's like the size of the city of Toronto each and every year. We simply can't afford to lose the farmland that feeds us, that contributes $50 billion to our food economy.
Questions? One final question. I recognize the member for Barrie Innisfil.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to continue my question to the member previously, but talk about planning policies. Well, municipalities have to start begging this government for ministerial zoning orders to build the right things and expand settlement boundaries because the planning policies aren't nimble enough. So we're helping them out, and I know the member has strong feelings from MZOs, but municipalities have no options. And so they go to the minister and they ask him, because they know that they have to respond to their constituents they were elected by to build homes and fit the right balance. Thank you.
Further response, final response.
We need a Yes in My Backyard campaign in the province of Ontario, just like all 3 levels of government in Guelph have come together for one. And one of the first places that we can start with that is ending exclusionary zoning in this province. That's exactly why I've put forward Bill 44 that would allow 4-story walk-up apartments and 4-plexes as of right. We need more missing middle housing. That's why I've put forward Bill 45 that would allow 6 to 11-story buildings on major transportation corridors.
It's now time for further debate. I recognize the member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to spend a couple minutes setting the record.